Do you feel as if you don't belong? Do you know you were meant for something more? Well, you were. Knowledge of who you are and where you really are from is within your reach. Join Janet Carol Lessin and Dr. Sasha Lessin as they search for the answers as they open up the Stargate to the cosmos.
Aloha, everyone, and welcome to Stargate to the Cosmos. I'm your host, Janet Carol Lessin. I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Sasha Alex Lessin. Our producer is Deborah DeFranco, and you're listening to Revolution Radio Studio B. Our guest today is Daryl Losaw, and he is working with a company which is producing an item called IceWind, which is a locally installed wind power company that was based in Iceland. So he's brought this to the United States. Losaw did 2 stints in the military, 5 years as an electronics warfare technician for the Air Force. He worked on C-130 electronics, warfare electronics, flight line and shop electronics maintenance, and 3 years as a lieutenant in the Army where he served in Iraq. So anyway, he's bringing this incredible technology. He saw it when he was on vacation in 2015, and he's bringing that to the world. So this is I've got a lot of pictures of this technology, and this is an expert. He's going to tell us all about it, and perhaps it's going to change the world. Dr. Lessin, you want to say something before we bring on Daryl?
Well, this is something to open your mind to the larger possibility. We're not helpless victims of climate change or anything of this sort. Humans are so intelligent, and when they work cooperatively with others, they can do so much. We can make the best of whatever comes down from this point forward. If only, if only we have the distribution systems and the will and the cooperation to do it. And so, having Daryl here is just part of our exploration with inventors and their people that are helping them with their products of how we can make the world better by our human ingenuity.
So I invite you to go to aquarianradio.com, where I have a page on Daryl and all these pictures. So welcome to our show, Daryl Losaw.
Hello, I'm glad to be here.
Coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell us all about this piece of technology and how it's going to save the world.
Well,
or at least improve it.
What's wonderful about this, it's kind of innovative. There's been a lot of people that have tried before, and there's been a lot of failure. So we think we have something unique, and what's kind of nice is there's a nice story to this. And what you have really is a marrying of 2 different blade styles. It's actually a hybrid design. You have your interior blades, if you actually see a picture of it, which are sail type, Savonia style blades, which they've been using sails for the dawn of time since they've been sailing the seas. Then you have the more recent, the one you see like on the horizontal, big power producing turbines. Those are the Daryl style. And what the outer blades are is a design that actually marries, and what we've done is we've married the 2 of them together. We use the sail type because it allows it to start up at a lower speed, and then the outer ones are more efficient and allow it to operate at a higher speed. And doing it in Iceland has proven to be the best thing because this stuff is built to last. In fact, we've even had it and taken it to the wall of wind at Florida International University in Miami to test it, to blow up some of the turbines a year ago. So it's actually got a lot of good things in it, and we're happy and excited to bring it to the rest of the world. And that's what we're trying to do right now, is to share the technology.
I guess how much does it cost to make, and what do you get out of making one of those?
Okay, so what you're looking at with one of these, there's a couple different applications. We have the one that you see, and the one that we're selling right now is the Freya, and that is in Nordic history, that's the goddess of love and beauty. So because of the design, it's a very beautiful design, and it just kind of fell in love with the design. That's why I got involved in the project, because it became something of Iceland that I really fell in love with, and that's why I moved there and to participate with this company. But what we did and what this does is we're able to do and offer off-grid at the right size. The one that you see on the website right now that we have and we're ready to sell is a 200 watt. It's rated to actually go from 150 to 200 watt at rated speed. Of course, we have more testing that we're doing currently in Iceland as well as here. We have a contract with someone who's doing structural analysis on it as we speak, and we'll have a report on that in the next month and a half. So we're really exploring that technology. And what you're looking at for that particular model is a cost. It's made out of extruded aluminum, aircraft grade aluminum. It's stainless steel and carbon fiber. That's what it's made from. So it's actually going to be priced at about $3,200, but then there's different options: off-grid, standalone, connected to the grid. So there's different connectivity, and that will drive some of the price based on the electrics or the electronics that you have to use for the application that you have. But this is designed for hurricanes. It's designed for rugged mountaintop installations. It's meant to be on towers for telecommunications, for like emergency services, especially out in remote areas. Especially during a hurricane. I just rode out one on the Gulf Coast. This would have stayed and provided power instead of our cell and our internet and our television and all of our communications went down. This turbine would have provided power, at least to that one site, all night long, and kept those people, if there was an emergency, at least able to communicate. So that's what it's meant for. It's really meant to do something a little bit that's not been done, and there's no marketplace for it right now. This is it. We're kind of forging into the dark.
So what about home use? Could I get one to power my house, or
okay?
Like how many bedrooms? Or,
a lot of that has to do with usage. Okay, depends on how many kilowatts you're going to use. But if you're trying to go sustainable and you're trying to be off grid, this small unit would actually, with a good battery backup, would be able to produce enough power for like a small cabin, like a remote hunting cabin, not like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, a glamping type situation, more of like a rugged situation. It would work great for that. Some other crazy uses: you could put it on a sled, take it out to like go ice fishing, have it sit there and actually produce enough heat, especially out on those cold lakes and especially on those cold, windy nights. You could actually use it to produce power for yourself in that situation and have heat and and illumination in a situation like that. You can actually have it. It's meant to be tower mounted in like the A-frames. Let's say you live on an old ranch and you have old power lines and old transmission lines running through your fields, and you have the ability, or you're close enough to them, you can actually put these turbines, if you had permission or you own the tower, to put these on there and actually be able to use the existing infrastructure that's just out there already and use it to power and be green. You could take and decentralize and offer rural America and other remote areas that don't have access to power the ability to have that. So you could have a right size turbine for your situation, like the house. Absolutely. Depending on your application, we have different solutions. And so you may have to go with like two of like a 500s. And also, it's not meant to be just standalone. It's meant to augment solar. It's not something that's supposed to be competing against one or the other. This does things that the others doesn't, and they have advantages in the right application and depending on where somebody lives. So, but yes, you can do that. You could. It would just be very hard to do like in a city application. It's not going to work, but that's hard to do because of codes and restrictions as it is.
Daryl, if you go beyond codes and restrictions and you think about the grid system versus more localized self-reliance, how much do we really need the kind of grid systems that we have? Is that really the best way to go? It doesn't seem in a lot of places to be. I'd like your take on on that?
I would say that I would absolutely agree with grid system, and I'll tell you the alternative, the reason I would say this is important, because where the wind blows is not where the power is used. So sometimes we have to have the big wind farms and be able to harness it at a industrialized scale so that it does make sense to have those infrastructures there for that. Also, because other areas don't have wind, some have solar, different times. We need battery backup. We need to really invest in next level battery just to get through this. We have coastal, absolutely important. Coastal, especially offshore. What an alternative if we can get rid of, destroy, well, not, if we can replace all of our coal and even our gas-fired cogeneration plants that we have that are generating power, if we can do that with offshore wind, I mean, that would be, that's huge and potential. I mean, that's neat. I mean, here's a good alternative. Here's one that I saw that's really out there. They're thinking of actually taking old coal mines and taking and breaking up the old turbines as they come off, and they have to basically bury them in landfills, and actually filling up the coal mines with all the fiberglass from the blades once they lose serviceability, is really even filling up the coal mine with the waste from the renewable as a way to take in as to kind of reintroduce it back into.
Beautiful.
I mean, we're actually making some progress. It's just nobody knows about it.
So what's your resistance? Is the oil industry, sabotaging and getting this out there?
I would say not in this case. Here's the problem with our situation. We are a vertical wind turbine, and we're not going to work in a low wind, and we're not meant to be placed 30 feet up in the air or 50 feet up in the air, because that's not our application. We will be if it's like a tower mounted, like on, let's say, a new remote 5G tower or something that's out there out in the middle of West Texas or something on the way to nowhere, to El Paso, okay? Or you're going in between Fort Stockton and El Paso. There's nothing there. So you need remote power there. Why have a diesel generator there when you could put a turbine or two turbines and maybe a bank of solar panels, and all of a sudden you have reliable, all the way ready to go, and you don't have to have a diesel generator out there? That's going to make an impact. That's somebody not having a diesel out there. And that's you have to defeat those types in that way of thinking. But yeah, it takes a little bit more time. It takes a little bit more design build criteria. They might have to, instead of using, like, let's say they use like 100 by 100 square foot piece of land, they may actually have to provision and space that out to 200 feet so they can accommodate some solar and some other renewables to eliminate that diesel generator. That's an investment that helps everybody. I mean, so, and then even in oil and gas, there's applications in Christmas trees all over South Texas, which is reference to all the metal and everything sticking up. There's the valves and all that, so they just call it Christmas trees. There's solar panels right there. They need a wind turbine too, because the sun doesn't shine. They need to get data out, and if there's a safety issue, they can't wait. It's got to be there. So it's like, there's a real application for this, and it's a real need, but you're going into, nobody knows about it. Nobody knows that it's reliable. There's no uptake because you have to show them and you have to make them aware.
When you're talking and I'm looking at the picture, I'm envisioning these could go everywhere. They could go on all these towers everywhere for all these different functions, and this would be the grid to replace, a lot of the oil. The solar and these wind turbines could go on every tower across the nation.
Yes, I'm sitting here in Texas. I'm out to the east of I-35, so all of the transmission lines going from Dallas to San Antonio to the Valley to Corpus to Houston and running around here, and I'm looking at all these towers and I'm looking at my turbines and I'm going, there's a ranch over there with power lines going down the road to it, but there's a tower right there. We could put 2 or 3 wind turbines, and they're going to be able to have power generated right there, and it doesn't affect anybody. It goes on a tower that's already there. They were already paying for it. It could make them more money to sell power anyways, and it's produced right there, and the reliability is all there.
Wow, you got a demo project then, and it's right from your neighbors. You can just show them and take a film of it. That's really cool.
I think what you have to do is somehow give the oil industry some incentive to, stop killing the planet. This is
let them buy your stock.
Yeah, something. Yeah.
I would say the best thing that we could do to it's not so much. It's like one thing that I would say is we're way behind on coastal wind, and especially offshore wind. There are just in Port Aransas, there are 3 of these old Seadrill. They went bankrupt, I don't know, 10 years ago or something, or 9, whenever it was. They've been sitting there for years. And I'm not kidding you. All of the coastal wind and all the West Texas turbines, they are ported and they are all staged in the yard right beneath all of these 3 huge offshore oil rigs. In fact, there's pictures, but they were at night, of our turbine in front of this. You can see some of the blades. There's hundreds of masts, hundreds of blades that get trucked out there, out to these locations to put up new wind turbines, and they're all along the coast. If we could just repurpose those 3 antiques from yesterday and turn those into jackup rigs or something, just melt them down, whatever, repurpose them into something where we could take and make solar and installations and just go out and use them in a more productive way out in the coast, and installing actual wind turbines so that we could just get rid of that next coal plant and that gas plant. You can see on there, you'll see my wind turbine. I was in South Texas. I have a picture of it right next to flaring gas. This is just natural gas that they just burn off for no reason all along the Eagle Ford, and nobody even cares. We're in the Northeast doesn't have enough gas. The Northeast doesn't have enough heat. They just burn it off in excess waste. I said there's 10 and 12-foot flames. We breathe this. This makes no sense. We're putting in wind turbines, but then at the same time, right beneath them, they're burning off gas. It boggles my mind. So it's like, yes, I want to see these turbines. I want to help out. Yeah, we're not going to make a big dent, but I want to at least do it. I mean, we got to do something. It's our responsibility to the planet and to this world to do something.
I think this could really be a game changer. It's just you got to get past the politics and educate the public. And if everybody started doing it individually and collectively, we could make a real, make progress and stop killing the planet. This is what we need.
Yeah, we don't have any other place to go. I mean, there's nothing else. I mean, yeah, maybe at some point, but in our lifetimes and in our future, it not in the anytime soon. So if that's the case, and that's not going to just poof, we win the galactic lottery or something. We have got to absolutely take care of what we have right now. I mean, because we're at war with our own planet, and we're back and forth with a virus that we're having. It's like we're killing ourselves. We got to stop doing this. So it's like, I would say
exactly.
There's just no other way forward. We just have to do these things, and at least we can make a choice. And this is mine. This is my attempt, is for us to do this. And if it makes for a good story, but I love the idea of being able to do this. It's kind of the only place that I know to post, because Facebook is so rife with everybody gnashing it. It's like dogs and cats all the time. So on LinkedIn, I've actually I've actually started posting some of these crazy ideas. Like I'll just take videos and I post like what ifs things, and I've taken pictures of like old oil things and stuff, just different things that I know that we could use it for, and just to spark a conversation to figure out what people could do with these things. Because it's like,
Please shoot that to me as well. I'll add to your page. This will be an ongoing discussion, and I will add those ideas. You're showing the old what you just said.
yeah,
Because if you can get this across visually, with here's what we can do, and here's what we can do, and here's what we can do, it'll start a movement. Because right now we have those large 3-pronged windmill things. Is this better or not as efficient? How do you compare with those?
those are completely more efficient. And actually the coastal, the ones that they're going to put offshore, those are going to be even more efficient. They're going to actually push the efficiencies. I believe they're talking into the 50% range, potentially up to 60%. That's huge when you're talking about the energy and the efficiency and the long-term operation. These are meant for micropower installations for emergency situations. They're robust. They're supposed to last from 25 to 30 years. And actually, what's interesting about that is we are starting to team with another startup with a technology that they've developed, and that's taking even the generator to, if you know anything about generators, think of reducing the electric motor, or the electric generator in this case. Imagine shrinking its signature and removing all the iron in the generator. So if you've ever taken a motor apart and you feel how heavy it is, take all the iron out of it, and you've just all of a sudden take all the copper winding, which is done by hand. It now is done in a printed circuit board, just like a green circuit board that you would see with the circuit laid on it. If you've ever had any to electronics, the circuit board, the copper is inlaid. Now all of a sudden the heat signature and the profile reduces. The longevity of the generator increases significantly. There's a lot less heat. Now this is being done for all small motors. So the next generation, like let's say the taxi company to Uber, that's what's going to happen with the small electric generator or the electric motor. And that's happening right now. And that's exciting. So that's going to make everything in EVs that much more efficient, because they're going to take the motors and they're going to reduce them by 50% in size. And the heat is another indication, because that helps with the battery life. It helps with a lot of the other problems they have with this, fires and things that can happen. So we're talking about doing that level of technology and really being able to push the efficiencies of these units. So the rated speeds we have on them now are going to be even evolving as we speak. We're working on prototypes to next generation, even what we have and what you see.
And this would be great to take to the colonies when we go to the stars. It looks like it's small, and you could put them around and start, good way to start. Like when they're landing and they're just getting everything built. This could be.
It definitely is a possibility. This is what you also have to realize. This is how in depth I am about wind. Actually, it's not. I saw an article about it, but Elon Musk is developing this kite wind. But what they're trying to do, because this actually will work, and there's a lot of startups that are involved in this, this is putting up kites, but production size for generating power. And if you think about it, if you were to able to put up some very large kites and with large cables that could also look as a conductor to bring the electricity back down to earth, you're able to actually put up these kites with turbine generators. But you can run them up, let's say, a mile and have them dragging in that wind consistently. They produce power all the time, everywhere. And the reason for the development of this is part of the whole plan for, get this is my take on Elon Musk going to Mars. Elon Musk has got this whole country and the whole world all excited about helping him going on a suicide mission. And literally, we're all cheering him on. We're paying for it too. He wants to get on a rocket ship and go to Mars and never come back. That's literally kind of what he's doing, which is cool. I mean, it's really out there, and I can dig it. But at the same time, here he is. He's actually developing this, and he bought a small company, and he's developing this because he's got one problem up there: the boring company under the ground, the SpaceX. He's got to get there. The car company, the electric. He's got to make a difference in the planet. It's a technology he needs because he's got to be able to push those technologies. That's all he's going to have there. So also now put into it power and power generation. He has with this kite. He throws his engineer teams at it. They just go crazy for it. We actually had an intern that worked for us for a short while that had done an internship at Tesla. So it was kind of interesting to get their take. But you find with this technology, he's going to be able to generate power as soon as he gets there. Okay, unload it, anchor it down. And here's another thing. If you want to anchor something, helical piers, screws right into sedimentary soil. You've got very solid foundation, especially in a low gravity environment. You can put your stuff right there, and it's very easy to do. So as far as this goes, he goes there, anchors his stuff down, and he gets his turbine up, and he starts going out there. He's generating power as soon as he's there within a very short period of time with consistent long term, just using the wind, even on Mars.
I remember in Collier's magazine a long time ago, maybe before you were born, von Braun had these plans of how to have a geocentric, centrically located station where you would start with a teeny cable going from there to Earth and wrap other cables around it, and pretty soon you'd have just what you described, a station where you could do whatever you're doing in space and transmit it down this cable to the Earth. That's one thing. The other thing I would really like you to explain a little bit. I know that when I lived in California, there was a diurnal shift in wind in and out every single day. And I wonder, and you alluded to greater winds offshore. Can you give us some idea of where the winds are and where's the best place to catch them? And what's that all about? Where's it greatest and most reliable, I guess?
Well, what's beautiful about, what's different about these versus what you see, the horizontal wind turbines, which everybody's seen the pictures of and driven by in most cases, or seen a picture of. Those are horizontal, and they have to be actually turned into the wind. They have to actually be stopped sometimes if there's too much wind, and they have to be turned in the wind. With what our design, they're omnidirectional. So that means that it can take wind from any direction at any time. It's designed to take it so it doesn't have to be altered, mechanically moved at all. So that being the case, it can work in those really chaotic windy situations, mountainsides, passes, and another like you're saying, coastal is of course a great location. But there's also places that you have on hilltops, hillsides that are windy, even in the most benign areas. They get winds, or you get evening breezes and stuff. But with this technology, you can do this anywhere, as long as you're not, like you said, it's not going to do you a bit of good in the middle of a forest. Okay, honestly, it's not going to do you much good if you're going to be two buildings around you and you're in the middle of the city. There's too much to block it. It's not going to be efficient enough to really warrant the cost. But if you actually have the property and you have the space, or you have the elevation unobstructed, you can actually put it in the city. You can actually take it and use it and utilize it there. Now, there's two different versions. You have the mast, which is just the one that you see, the Freya, and then you have the Njord line, which is the commercial. That one's the tower mounted. Now that is exciting because that can go on any A-frame structure in the world. That being the case, in its free space, every city has transmission lines that run in it. Those cities could put their generation, these small generators, even for, let's say, even emergency backup for the police or like the MTA, like in New York City. They need backup power and emergency power. They could use wind on these A-frames that are all over the city, that are transmission lines that are coming in and out, and they could utilize that space. They could actually generate their own power right there instead of having to have built out capacity. It's a small piece of it, but it's something. That gives you some flexibility and stuff. And if you do those things where you can and where it makes sense, that's going to I think it'll make a big difference. So that's what exciting. And as we've actually tailored it and we've gotten it more efficient, you can size it to different sizes. We've got them to where they'll go up to 1 kilowatt, but we haven't tested it fully to see what its true capabilities are. With these new efficiencies we found in different components that we're looking at, especially the generator that I was telling you about, the advancement in technology, that's going to offer us, we're looking at least a 3 to 5% efficiency increase just there. So there is opportunity to really, kind of make it even more attractive, just like the solar has efficiencies have started increasing. They're actually producing them at 27% efficiency now.
The ones that you have, for emergencies when there's a hurricane and this and that. How do you store the energy? Is there a battery with this thing?
Yeah, you would have to. The battery pack, we're not going to be selling batteries because we're not a battery company. The battery systems are already there, especially if they have solar, and there's already on off-the-shelf standardized accepted batteries where we produce power. You can store it and use it however you want to. You want to just use it as a heat something, or use it as as a heater. You can just throw it into a heat sink and produce heat. To, let's say you need to keep something like we were talking about, like that cabin situation. You could actually use that for the cabin. You could keep a heater, and then as the wind's blowing harder, it just gets warmer in the cabin. So you could do that. Then you could also use it specifically, you could store it with batteries, but those batteries could be whatever they have. You could use recycled leaf batteries. You could use a power wall. You can use a gel battery. A lot of them use the gel type. Just depends on the application, because also the type of battery you use depends on the application. You can't really use a lithium battery so much in a very cold location. You might need to go with like a nitrate battery. You just, depending on the parameters of the environment there. So that's a consideration as well. But you will be using batteries.
This picture you have with the tower, how tall is that tower? It's the last picture if you're on the website on Daryl's page.
Oh, that one more. That's got the it's got the demonstration model there. I believe it's in Iceland. I believe it's only about 3 meters tall. So approximately like 12 to 15 feet.
15 feet high. Okay.
And they don't have to be that tall. They can actually, if you think about it, in the big power structures, especially the transmission lines, they would fit actually in the frame itself. They wouldn't have to be mounted on the outside. They would be in the frame, so they'd be able to be tied into the actual structure of it.
The same principles that apply in the air would also apply for if you made underwater units. The shape principles that you've incorporated.
Yeah, that absolutely would be the case. The big thing there is overcoming, of course, the submersible thing. And there are some really amazing global endeavors when it comes to coastal with tidal currents and stuff. Oh my goodness. I don't know if this design would work, but I know that would be cool. If somebody wanted to use a design like that, I would be like, go guys.
And the other thing, it seems like it would have been logical to put that on top rather off to the side. What was the purpose of putting it off to the side?
Oh, in that case, it's a demonstration. We are limited to the way that we're allowed to install them at this point. With the demonstrations that you see with those, that is done with the Icelandic telecommunications or with the power company. So we're limited to by what we're allowed to do. And those are test units. We're testing out bearings, seals. We're testing out durability, different types of masts. We used to have, and we were using a stainless steel mast, but then we put it in about one that got up to about right almost to hurricane force 2 winds. It basically, the blades morphed and the actual stainless steel bent, and then all of a sudden it just threw it apart. So that testing change the materials that we use. That's what we're testing in those different settings, and we have different style of blades on there just to kind of really hone in the design as we develop the product.
So, what's the purpose of IceWind? Will it work tropical winds and warm winds?
Well, you got to remember it was designed and the company was started in Iceland, so it's that's the whole purpose. We've tested it there, we developed it there. In fact, so what's beautiful about it is now that I'm just here because this is the largest market, and really honestly, about 3 months ago, we're at a crux. This actual project was funded by the Horizon 2020 fund from the EU to the tune of 2 million euros. So it's actually been through and vetted at multiple stages and been given different government grants. So there's a lot of that all came to a head this summer, and now they're at this point. So what we have to do at this point, we have to go with the product, because everybody shut down for COVID. So at this point, we have to go, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. We're launching to see what we can do and make a go of it. It's kind of like what it is it's called Theta Redost. And if you know anything about Iceland, that's their national motto. They are resilient people. They work together as a community. Their society has no military. They also don't have any mosquitoes. They also don't have any snakes. And they also don't have any military. And they're 100% renewable in their power generation and consumption. So that being said, I would say that their society works together and they have to punch a lot higher and larger than they really are, because they're only a country of 300,000 people. And what they call that is Theta Redost. And Theta Redost is it'll all work out. They are notorious procrastinators, but boy, can they pull it together at the end. They somehow pull it together with duct tape, chewing gum, bootstraps, bale and twine, whatever you want, and they throw it all together, and they're even some tin foil, and they get that, and they get the job done. I can tell you from firsthand that those are some of the most industrious people, and when they're of a purpose, they will do it. In fact, the CEO right now, he's actually forming up and pouring his new house for him and his family himself this summer for his summer project. He's actually doing the concrete and the earth and all the dirt work himself with buddies and friends and contractors, and his whole family's out there doing it. Now, how do I know? His dad, Auskayev, I've gone out to hit with him, and over a drunken weekend, spent having lots of stories and lots of fun. We formed up and poured an extension to a summer house that he has out near one of the volcanoes. So it's a very interesting society, and because of that, we're at this point. And bringing this around full circle is this: we have no other option but to throw everything we got at this endeavor. So that's what I'm doing right now. It doesn't matter what happens, but we just have to see it through. There's no other opportunity. It is now or never.
Right.
And that's it. You really, it's carpe diem. You are using, and I think you represent a lot of inventors we've been talking to. You're using Coven to make you get it out there way faster than you ever would have, and it give you a good kick in the ass that's going to help everybody, or if it's fast enough and we don't die first.
I'm looking at the bus stop. It's very interesting.
Oh yeah.
Those things on top, are they functional or are they decorative?
No, those were actually functional. We actually did that bus stop as a promotion. That's, of course, you see WOW on there, which is now defunct, but they're coming back, the airline. But we did that right in front of Harpa, which with the concert hall there in Reykjavik. And when we did that, We wanted to promote the technology and what we could do, and that actually is an old design, but they were producing power. It was for illumination, a billboard. They had an electronic billboard there, and for advertising, and as well as charging station for like cell phones. So it was an attempt at showcasing what we had. We could only do it for a very short period of time. It was only for a few months, but it was for a way for us to show ways to apply and utilize the technology.
Oh, cool.
So it's not still there?
Oh, no, no, it's not, because it's like anything that was like they let us do it for a short period of time. Plus, the people that own there's a government contract with the city and the people who have the advertising contract for the bus stops in the different locations. And so that there was a transition, and in the transition, and also it just didn't work out where we were going to be able to do it and move forward, because there was just too many players changed. So we have been approached to look at it again, but again, it's a matter of timing. Iceland's in just about the same. You got to remember all the tourism, which had become their number one, number two industry over the last 7-8 years, is basically all the air traffic from America and Europe pretty much stopped. So you can imagine things are in a different state right there right now.
Right.
But
Deborah, do you have any questions?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I do.
Deborah?
Yes, I
Okay.
do have a question. You had mentioned that there was a difference in size and lifespan between the traditional big wind turbines. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, actually what you're seeing now is the newer designs. They're now coming to their service life expectancy is done. At 20 years, for the most part, they're pretty much rendered. They're obsolete. It's time to take them down. So that's what you're seeing now, and this is happening all over the world, Europe, America, and it's just going to continue. There's going to be continual need to replenish that. Okay, now some of it's going to go offshore, and they're going to replace the locations that they have. Hopefully, they reuse the masts with more efficient turbines. So what you're seeing there is that's beginning to happen. Now with ours, we're expecting these things to last for 25, 30 years. Now, the thing about ours is they are right now, they're as far as recyclable, especially the Freya, it's aircraft grade aluminum, which is 100% recyclable, stainless steel, which is recyclable, and then you have the carbon fiber, which can be recycled. It's just a different type of process. It's got to be crushed, ground down. There's an engineer that works on staff that explained it much better than I do, but that is the component that is already using recycled, is actually the component that is even recyclable inside of that. So with the other ones, the fiberglass and these big, large turbines, they cannot do anything with these blades. They're burying them out in the middle of fields in just massive, basically just dumps. That's what they're doing with them. So there's a cost to doing recyclables. We have to find a way to cycle the whole thing. We have to be able to recycle the renewables and use them again. We have to use it. We have to take it and process it as many times as we can before it just becomes waste. We just can't be doing things once anymore. We got to be doing them 3 and 4 times in a life cycle.
There was an NPR program where that showed in-depth investigation that recycling never was expected to pay for itself or to work, but it was rather a way to take the heat off the cracking of oil industry because paper bags were threatening them at the time. But the recycling hasn't worked the way we've done it. It just hasn't worked.
Well, I can tell you this firsthand. There's a serious problem, and one that's really been neglected by a lot of people, and this has been that trade war that we had with China. They stopped taking recyclables, guys. There are a lot of places that had staged right before that would stage and collect them up, repackage them, put them in shipping containers, and send them back to China because they could make money on this. They'd get paid on both sides. There, I can even tell you of acreage that I know of personally because the owner wants me to wanted me to clean it up and buy the land. It's got just stacked cases of old everything, old parts from computers and different types of plastics, all sorts of it. And what the thing that you realize is none of that, or so little of that, is now going back to China. It's ridiculous. All that stuff is just going to end up in the dump. But I will tell you this, I would rather see it in the dump, but I would much rather see it recycled, even if it costs us an extra 20%, 10%, whatever it is in the product. We have got to get this worked out. If we did it, we could process it ourselves and utilize it here. We wouldn't have to use more diesel fuel and more energy and ship it all the way back to China. Why don't we have the capacity and the ability? We consume it here. Why can't we process it here? We pump the oil here. Why can't we do something with it? There's jobs there. There's opportunity there, but nobody wants to invest in it.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Thank
agree.
you.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
wow.
wonderful. Come up with some ideas.
Oh,
What would be the startup for that?
that I'm doing one right now. Every single power line, every transmission line that I see out there that's next to any structure or next to any business or any emergency beacon on it, they need a turbine. There's no reason that space is just there. They could be making a dent and actually doing their jobs effectively and get rid of a lot of problems. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity for everybody everywhere to improve. I mean, we all have to do our little, turn the lights off. I mean, it's that simple. Just turn the lights off.
You know what? Your thing is like fuel injection. Instead of the unburned fuel just passing out the exhaust pipe, it puts it back in, and that's what you're doing. You're boosting the existing systems, if I understand right.
Yeah, that's the whole point, is using what's existingly here for the applications. If you're going to have, and you need a water well for, let's say, for your livestock or for even just, let's say, desalinization. There's a lot of places that have no water. They have brackish water, but they have to have the membranes and the reverse osmosis to be able to process it. They have these desalinization plants and they run them with solar. Well, sometimes it's cloudy and sometimes it's dark. And even in places in the Caribbean or in the desert, that can happen. You have high plateaus that are in these situations. So with this technology, the wind blows, we're just there to augment. The solar's not working. There you go. You've got wind. And you know what? That desalinization takes energy. What kind of energy do you want to use? It's way off the grid. They need water. That's the essential to life, and power is the only way to make that happen. Why not use this technology there? Why not, if there's some place out in the middle of, I don't know, anywhere's from Kenya to Alaska, out on the barren island. If there's a way to do that and turn seawater or turn brackish water and this power and solar power and the technologies there with these other companies that are already producing these systems to give them power, why wouldn't you deploy it in those situations? You have to. It's it's our responsibilities. And can we make these things cheaper? We do whatever we have to. We're not trying to, this is not like this is supposed to be a purpose. There's not really a whole lot of motivation to make this into like some Tesla thing. This is not going to happen. This is something to make an impact on the planet and an impact in the industries that we're trying to help. So, I mean, that's what at least I'm trying to do.
So how can IceWind help preppers? There's a lot of preppers on this radio station.
This is where I was talking about, like desalinization. That's important. If you don't have water, you're in trouble. Here's another one. What if I'm also a sanitarian or septic installer in the state of Texas. You have to deal with the processing of just your effluent, okay? You can use different systems and gravel and different things, but sometimes you have to use like an aerobic aerobic situation, and you might need to have air or like a small air pump. Well, that powers that offers you power. You may have to have like a situation where you need power and alternatives. Of course, you want to have your solar, but these are quiet. They're low key, they're low profile. You don't have to put these up 30 foot in the air. You can put these out, especially if you're in a remote cabin, and you can put it out there on the side of a hill. You don't have to worry about maintaining it. And if you have to move, or you need to, like, you can actually go unbolt it, unplug it, take the electron, and you can go. I mean, I have mine on the back of a military shit trailer, which is like a cargo trailer, that they would use like in the back of a deuce and a half. So like it is highly mobile and able to do that. So it gives you a lot of versatility. And what this is nice about it is durable and long lasting, especially with a situation like I was describing with the technology, with the fact that it's not going to have that motor in there and the hand wound copper lines. That's a high failure item. You reduce the heat and the requirements there. That helps durability even more. And the components we're talking about are things that don't get affected by weather. It's been tested in Iceland. It's been proven in Iceland. And I don't know really any other place except like Mount Washington. And hey, let's take it out to the Aleutians, I guess, and go take it out there for what is it? What is that? Deadliest catch? I mean, so it's like it has an even Bennett wall of wind. So it's like when you're talking about being prepared and having power when you need it at the most dire time, that's it.
How does it help in hurricane season?
Hurricane season, that's like I was just down there for Hurricane Hannah. I took my son down. We had a small beach place for a few minutes or for a few months. Just because we couldn't go anywhere this summer. So while we were down there, it was supposed to be a tropical storm, so it ended up being a hurricane. We lost power on that day on, I believe it was Saturday night. And what happened is it got worse and it came ashore and it knocked out everything at about midnight. Well, the winds were at 80, 90 miles per hour, I believe, at their highest. And because of that, with the parameters on our turbine, if it was there, we would have never lost power. We would have never lost communication, or at least we would have lost grid power. That would have happened no matter what. But for as far as long as this being on the telecom tower, that telecom tower would have been operational for at least that whole night. It would have never stopped producing power for that location. So it would have been in the right situation. It would be able to last longer and provide you with a level of security, even in the most dire situations in a hurricane. I mean, at some point, though, if you have a tidal surge and that wipes out the tower, well, that's going to happen. I mean, there's just something, those are beyond anybody's capability to design against. But as far as longevity, it's going to last you. It's been proven to test those winds and actually survive.
So we have, I think, about 3 or 4 minutes. How do people find out more? How do they reach you? When is this launch? When are you launching?
We have launched it. And I can tell you the process. We are open for pre-orders and we're gauging the interest, because what we're going to do in the next few months is we're actually going to order up for the Freya, which is the unit that you've seen. And actually, I've actually had it at 80 miles an hour because it became untethered on that trailer going down I-35. So it's spun at 80 miles an hour and it didn't even affect it. But what I can tell you is it's going to be available. And what we're going to do probably towards the end of September or early October, I'm going to open it up for deposits to really truly gauge what the interest level is on it. Think of like the Cybertruck, trying to gauge the interest, and then I'm going to order the first set of turbines to fulfill the need for the demand that we have, and then get them out there and prove it out there and see what happens, and actually deliver the product, put it in the people's hands, and let them use it for what they want to, whatever that requirement might be, for the small cabin on a tower, for a coastal application side of a mountain, emergency beacon, whatever that might be, and their needs are. Even with the right amount and it's great for illumination, advertising. You can even think of it as an alternative to grow houses, to be able to be off the grid and sustainable. It's another application for it. It can do the job. It generates power, but it's not meant to do massive power, cities, towns, small homes, with a couple of turbines, depending on their need, augmented with solar. and as well as like small cabin applications, towers, telecommunications, any kind of water wells, desalinization, anything that needs power in a micro application.
Awesome. And so, what's your website called? Do you have a website?
It's IceWindUSA.com, or they can also at IceWind.is is the Icelandic one. And we have available links to be in contact with. In fact, if you do, if anybody does use Facebook or uses our pre-order or engages in conversations, we actually have an engineer named Sam who's actually taking those inquiries. We actually have a program that we're using to actually analyze where you're located, to be able to see what your power system, if the turbine will work for you, and do some analysis with you and talk about your situation. So feel free to give us a shout or drop us a line.
Awesome. Well, the music's going to start in about 30 seconds. What would you like to tell our listeners while we're waiting for the music?
Hey, come out and see what we have to offer. If you have suggestions, if you have ideas that how we could use this technology, where we could go to present it to somebody, or know of somebody that should talk to us, feel free to ask them. We need help. We need help reaching out and making a difference. And if we're going to punch higher, we're going to take that big chance and take a punch. We need as much help to throw it as we can. So that's all I could ever ask.
Wow. Thank you so much. That was great.
Thank you.
Yeah. We have a lot to learn. Yeah. I appreciate that you're so dedicated
to
this
thank
project.
you.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
The future is uncertain. I know this. Death is inevitable. I know this. But one thing is certain.
Hello.
As free men, it is our right to live unencumbered and in peace. And those times are quickly drawing to an end. And in these times, peace is certainly an illusion. And as the chains grow tighter, our ability to slip those chains increase incrementally with every passing moment. Inaction is no longer an option. It's time to raise our voices like a cacophony of thunder and lightning and tell the masters no more. And this is Nighthawk, and I say, for myself, no more. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, because the freedom is slipping away.
Hello, my name is Mr. Rowe. I am the host of Reality Extraction on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I utilize logic, intellect, and magic to methodically atomize, vivisect, analyze, examine, study, scrutinize, and extract an essence of reality from a fog of illusion and confusion. You can find me on Studio B every Thursday, 1700 hours Pacific Time. That's 8 p.m. Eastern.